Hey guys, it's Sin here. So today we're diving into photo mode and I'll guide you on how you can take some really clean and cinematic shots, whether it's for thumbnails, wallpapers, or just for fun. So first things first, let's position our car in a good spot. You don't want to just take a photo anywhere. The background actually matters a lot. Let me find a decent location. Now, one quick tip before we go further, I'd highly recommend installing the CK Dynamic Skybox mod. It basically gives you way more control over the lighting, sky, and overall mood. So let me quickly adjust the sky. Yeah, that's looking much better already. Clean lighting, nice atmosphere. Let me just move the car a little bit to get a better angle. All right, this looks perfect.
One more thing I'd recommend. You should also install the GFF suite. So it actually comes with a lot of different settings that you can tweak to get an even more enhanced look, but we'll leave that for another day. If you want a dedicated video on that, just drop a comment and I'll cover it in detail. For today, we're just going to use it for one main thing, changing the sun direction, basically controlling the lighting of your shot. And see that? Just by changing the light angle, the whole scene looks completely different. This is super helpful when you're trying to get that perfect shot. Now, I think I'll switch the car. Let's go with the G63. Let me change the color as well.
Yeah, this one's looking a bit sus right now, not gonna lie. By the way, you can enable this configuration option to give your car more of a metallic finish.
Let me tweak it a bit, play around with it, and find what looks best. All right, I think this looks pretty clean now. Let's make the car stand out. I'll go with something like a yellowish orange. Yeah, that pops way better. Now let's position the car properly, get a nice angle. All right, this looks good. Now press Ctrl+C. And let's jump in the photo mode.
All right, let me first adjust the roll rotation a little bit. Now, the first option here is field of view. As the name suggests, it controls how zoomed in or wide your camera looks. Lower FOV gives you that more cinematic, zoomed in feel, and higher FOV makes everything look wider. Now, you might be wondering what this 3x3 grid is doing here. So basically, this helps you with composition. It's called the rule of thirds, and it helps you place your subject, like your car, in a way that looks more balanced and professional. For example, you might want your car on one side and leave space on the other side for text or just a cleaner frame. Now, moving on, we have camera speed. Pretty self-explanatory, it just controls how fast your camera moves. I wouldn't mess with this too much. Next is roll, which controls how tilted your image is. It doesn't move the camera or zoom, it just changes the angle slightly to give your shot a bit more style if needed.
Next is time of the day, so it's not working because it only works on by default sky, but I've already added the skybox, it will not work. Next is sun direction. This is basically you can control from both here in photo mode, also from FKF Suite. It's totally up to you.
And as for the filters,
I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Next we have bloom. Bloom is basically a visual effect that makes bright areas glow and spread light a bit. If you increase it, the brightness starts glowing more, but if you overdo it, it can look a bit too much. So I'd recommend keeping it somewhere in the middle for a clean look. Now let's move on to depth of field, which is honestly one of the most important parts. First is near blur strength. As the name suggests, it controls how much blur you get on objects that are close to the camera. Then we have far blur strength, which does the exact opposite. It blurs objects that are far away. Next is focus distance. This basically decides what part of the image stays sharp, so in our case, we'll set it on the car. Now aperture. You can think of this as how strong the blur effect should be overall. Higher value, more blur in the background and foreground. And finally, we have follow sharpness. This controls how quickly the image goes from sharp to blurry. Think of it like this. Do you want a smooth, soft transition or a more sharp, noticeable blur? That's what this setting controls.
Now moving on to ambient occlusion settings. First is contrast. This controls how strong and dark the small shadow details look, especially around edges and corners. Think of it like how intense the shadows feel. I'd personally recommend not overdoing it because it can make the image look too harsh. If you do want to tweak it, try adjusting it along with the radius. Now, radius basically controls how far those shadows spread from objects. So you can think of it as the size of the shadow effect. Next is quality. To be honest, it doesn't make a huge difference visually, but you can still set it according to your preference if you want slightly cleaner result. Now below that, you've got a couple of simple toggles. Show grid, you can enable or disable the composition grid from here, and then smooth movement. This controls how your camera moves. As you can see, when it's enabled, the camera movement becomes more smooth and cinematic, and when it's disabled, it feels more direct and responsive. Personally, I prefer keeping it off because it gives me more control. But if you're recording cinematic shots, turning it on can definitely help with smoother movement. Next up is reflections. This basically controls how the environment and lighting reflect on your vehicle. I'd personally recommend keeping this on because it really adds that extra realism to your shots. Then we have the ambient occlusion toggle. This just enables or disables all the AO settings we adjusted earlier. So yeah, definitely keep this enabled for better shadow detail. Same goes for depth of field. You can turn it on or off from here depending on whether you want that blurry cinematic look or a fully sharp image. Extra features just shows or hides some additional options. Nothing too important here. Now about Node Grabber, I thought it would let me grab nodes directly here, but it's not working for me right now. Probably some mod conflict or something, so we'll just ignore that for now. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if you install CK Dynamic Skybox, you can take things even further. Let me switch to another scat. All right, this one looks amazing. Now let's adjust the sun direction again. And there you go. You can already see how much better the lighting looks. Let me take a quick screenshot and maybe try one more with a different skybox. Yeah, that looks clean. Alright guys, that's it for today. Hope you found this guide helpful. If you're interested in creating BeamNG content, I've got some really useful videos coming up where I'll show you how to make shorts, long-form videos, thumbnails for BeamNG videos, and how to grow your own BeamNG channel. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Also, if you're new here, I've already created guides on things like the radio menu, basic controls, adding dummies, and some really useful mods. You can find all that on the channel. It's Zen signing off. Peace out.